Welcome to another episode of Evernote Learning the Basics. In this week's episode, we're going to be learning about drop-down menus and how they can help you become more efficient at Evernote. Coming up next. So here we are within Evernote for Mac, and I'm going to be showing you in this episode the different things that you can do with drop-down menus. So as you see here, I have my Evernote opened up, and up here is the menus that we're going to kind of go through in this episode. In later episodes, we'll be going over how to utilize them in your productivity, but in this episode, we're just going to kind of go through each of the menus, give a brief description of the drop-down menus, and maybe even go over a little bit of what you could do with some of these menus that are probably the more frequently used menu items. So now, here at the top, you have, now this is on Evernote for Mac. Now, of course, Evernote for PC might be a little bit different, and I'll apologize ahead of time for that. I don't have the PC version, and I don't quite remember. Well, actually, I do have the PC version. I have it on my work computer, but I do not actually utilize it as much as I utilize the Mac version, so I apologize ahead of time. But here we are up at the top, and if you click on the Evernote, you can see all the different things that are underneath this. Now, of course, you have under Evernote here at the top, you have About Evernote, which just gives you a brief idea of who makes the software, in case you want to read that. There it is. Then also you can rate Evernote for Mac. Here is where you'll spend a lot of time. Well, you won't spend a lot of time, but if you want to set up different preferences for Evernote, this will be your most used item within this drop-down menu here. Under Preferences, when you click on it, it's going to open up to this. Now, depending on where you left off, the last time you were in here, it might start off at a different tab. Mine stopped off at Scanning because I have went through some of this in another episode. So if you click on General here, you'll see that you have several different things that you can do within the General tab. By default, my notes are going to this inbox here. Now, there are several different ways you can choose your default notebook. This is one of them. You can click on this down arrow and choose another notebook for your default notebook. And when I say default notebook, I mean everything that you either scan into Evernote, that you either take a picture of and import into Evernote, whatever it is that you do to get something into Evernote, even if you emailed yourself a note, goes into the default notebook of Inbox. At least it does on mine. Now, you could always set your default notebook up with something else. But everything that I do goes into the inbox, and from there, I parse out where I want that note to go, whether or not that goes to my filing cabinet or to another notebook, and I also tag them. Once I am done with all of my notes in the inbox, it should be to inbox 0, which will go into another episode about how you too can follow the inbox 0 rule. Now, other things you can do, as you see here, I have pretty much everything checked off into here except for Open Evernote when I log into my computer. If you select that, it will actually open Evernote when I log into my computer, and I'm pretty happy up here at the top, which you probably can't see since it's off the screen, but I have my Evernote companion icon that actually opens up anyways, or the helper, which is actually down in here. So I don't really need Evernote itself to open up when I log into my computer. Now, of course, here I have open note links from other applications in a new window. You can choose to either have that toggled on or off, and all this means is that when a note opens, open note links from other applications in a new window, it'll open your note links that you have from other applications into a new window separate from the actual Evernote window you see open now. That can be annoying to some people, or it might not be. It just depends on your preference. Show note counts in sidebar. So that's basically all these right down here. If you look at the bottom here, you see I have my note counts. When you install Evernote for the first time, this is actually unchecked. I checkmarked it because I wanted to see my note count. I don't know why. I think it makes me feel better inside. Gives me that fuzzy feeling. Anyways, so then, of course, I already explained the open Evernote when I log into my computer, and then, of course, show descriptive links. You can either have that check marked on or off. I think when you install Evernote, that is automatically check marked. Down here, you see the Evernote helper. That is the actual helper that gets installed on your Evernote for Mac. Now, with the PC version, I'm not really sure, but I believe it does also have a helper app as well. That's probably down in the taskbar down below. But in any case, you can either show Evernote helper in the menu bar, you can keep Evernote helper running in the background when you quit Evernote, and you can start the Evernote helper when I log into my computer. So that's what I chose to do, rather than open Evernote when I log into my computer each time. Now here in the sync box here, you have sync shortcuts, warn me if I quit while syncing. So these are two things that you can go ahead and have check marked. I suggest you should have these both check marked. It just helps with the overall functionality of Evernote. Now, and when I say sync shortcuts, that's these shortcuts over here. I mean, why would you not want your shortcuts synced across all devices? I mean, you put them in there for a reason, because you want to use them as often as possible. So you would want those to be synced to your other devices. Now, the clipper here, bring the clip to the front, bounce the dock icon once, and play a sound. These are clipping functions when you clip stuff like images or text or articles or products or whatever have you within the Evernote web clipper that is installed on your web browser. So you can download the Evernote web clipper right here and install it in your web browser. So when you want to clip an article and you want it to automatically go to your inbox in Evernote, this makes everything a little bit easier. Now, of course, these are some options that whether or not do you want to bring the clip to the front, do you want to bounce the dock icon once, or do you want to play a sound when you clip or after you clip? That's up to you. I leave them on. I believe that is the default when you install Evernote, and I don't see any reason not to have them on, but just depends on your annoyance level, whether or not you're annoyed by them being on. By default, view newly clipped PDFs and Office documents. You can select this as inline, where it's inline, or as attachments. Okay. And keyboard shortcuts. Now, for a lot of people that use the Mac, you probably are used to shortcuts. I actually, and let me give you a little history about me. I actually, I don't know if I should say I grew up. I'm 48 years old, so I've been around for a while. But I actually came about into the PC world. So I remember when Mac came out a long, long time ago. Actually, when I was in high school, I remember Apple Macintosh coming out. But I really, after the Marine Corps, got into the PC world. And so I didn't really use shortcuts like a lot of Mac heavy users did when Mac was starting to become more mainstream. So with that said, I don't actually use shortcuts even today, because even though I have completely switched from the PC world to the Mac world, I still do not use shortcuts that often. I'll admit there are occasions when I'm in Photoshop that there are a couple shortcuts I might use, but for the majority of it, I do not use shortcuts. Now, however, For those of you who do use shortcuts, great news. Evernote loves shortcuts. And in this dialog box here, you can see some of the assigned global keyboard shortcuts for common tasks in this area, and you can change them to whatever shortcut you wish for these tasks here. So this is where you would change that in the preference window. Now, of course, here on formatting, this is where you can choose what font you want for your notes to show up whenever you start typing into a note. This is also a note plain text font that you can choose, and also you can change your format for inserting dates into your notes, whether or not you want it in this format or you want it in some other weird format. Down here you have auto format keyboard shortcuts, automatically create lists, lines, and emojis. I believe that comes checkmarked in the default setup of Evernote. In context here, you can show the context. Context shows notes, articles, and people related to what you're working on. I was just leaving all those checkmarked. It naturally comes checkmarked with the default setup, I believe, when you first install Evernote. You can also manage the context sources, and that just opens up another window here, or you can manage your context sources under here, okay? And this basically is the web version of Evernote that mirrors the desktop version. So then you can go ahead and select your context sources here, and everything will change as far as your context sources within the Evernote desktop version. Reminders. You can set reminders for different things, whether or not you want to be reminded about a special event. Maybe you have a special project folder or a notebook that you have created. You can create reminders on that if you so desire. That comes, I believe, uncheckmarked when you install Evernote. And I usually leave it uncheckmarked because I have no real reason for reminders. Now, the scanning button here, as you see, is all grayed out. There is really nothing you can do in this feature right here unless you have, wait for it, the Evernote Scan Snap Edition. That's right. Scan Snap by, I believe it's, Fujitsu. They created their own, they partnered, I guess you could say, with Evernote to create an Evernote Scan Snap Edition. Now, ScanSnap is one of Fujitsu's great, awesome scanners. In fact, I have a mobile, portable version of it. But if you had the desktop version of ScanSnap, the Evernote edition, if you had the desktop version, all of this right here would be easily selectable, okay? And what this would do is, when you scanned let's say a document into the scanner, what would happen is it would automatically recognize it's a document, and it would send it to whatever notebook you would want and with whatever tag you want. So that would be useful if it recognized it was a business card and you still wanted to go to the inbox, but you wanted maybe to tag it as business cards. So these are the common things that it can recognize when it scans into Evernote. So this is a kind of a cool little area if you chose to get this scanner. The scanner is about $500. I opted to go with the ScanSnap. What do I have? The S1300i, I think it is. And it works great, but it just doesn't have this feature. And I see no reason to actually include that. But if you wanted to be even more lazy and have the scanner do a majority of the work for you, by all means, spend $500 and get the scanner. So there is that section of the preferences. So once I close out of here, I come back to Evernote, and also underneath this Evernote drop down here, you have the account that you're logged into, any other accounts that you want to have associated with this Evernote here, and you can switch between accounts. You can add another account. You can sign out of all accounts, And then services is, of course, useless babble I'm not going to go into. You'd also have file here. File has new note, new chat, new notebook, new tag, new FaceTime camera note. We'll go into that later. A new audio note, new window, and new tab. So these are all the different kinds of notes that you can take within Evernote. Also, here is the sync. If you so desire to click on sync now, you can. And here's the close, so you can just close out of it. You can also save. And of course, you can attach files, insert from Google Drive, import notes, export notes, save attachments to folders, and print notes. That's right. Sometimes you have to print a note. Here is the edit menu, basic, just like every other edit menu within Mac, just a basic setup here. I won't go into too much detail there. The view is pretty much similar to other views that you might see in other applications within the Mac environment. But you do have some other cool little things like work chat, notes, notebooks, tags here, and their short, corresponding shortcuts in case you ever want to know. And that's another cool thing about these menus here is not only in the preference under the shortcuts for global shortcuts, they also have individual shortcuts in here in the drop downs that you can also memorize if you have a favorite thing that you want to do. So you have those shortcuts there. Also here you have the card view, the expanded card view, snippet view, side view, top list view, which you can also access over here in this area as well. Then of course, you have all this stuff down here, which we'll go in at a later date. You have notes here, share notes, copy shareable link. You also have open note in new tab. And all this right here, you can present your screen to another screen. You can also edit note titles, note tags, and look at note history, and so forth and so forth. Under format, this is some of the stuff you can do within a notes, but you also have that ability within the note to change the format of your font and colors and so forth. Also, you have the window, which is a normal window view that you would normally see in some applications within the Mac environment. And then, of course, you have the help drop-down menu here. So I didn't want this video to go really too long. I just want to kind of give you a brief overview of the drop-down menu so you can see all the different kinds of things that are within the drop-down menu world. Now, of course, later on in other episodes, we'll go over some of these that I might use on a normal basis to make my life easier within Evernote. Now, if you like this video and you want to see more of these kind of videos, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And so without further ado, I want to wish you an awesome day, and let's become more productive. Thank you.